Welcome to The Explainer. We're about to break down a huge question. Why do some ideas totally change the world while others just fizzle out? It's often not about the quality of the idea itself, it's about impact. And today, we are going to build the framework to make sure your message is one that people don't just hear, but actually remember. So let's just start with a quick question. Have you ever been in a meeting or even just talking with friends, and you make a point you think is really important, only for it to be met with, silence? Or someone talks right over you, or it's just completely forgotten a minute later? Yeah, if you felt that frustration, you are definitely not alone. But here's the good news. The problem usually isn't your idea. It's the packaging. It's all in the delivery. And that is something we can absolutely fix. And the really great news, impactful communication is a skill, not some kind of magic talent you're born with. You can build it. And it's built on a pretty simple, memorable framework of 3 foundational pillars. Okay, before we start building up that new skill, we kind of have to understand what's tearing it down in the first place. So let's take a look at the common barriers that stop our messages from connecting. Think of these as a kind of internal static, whether it's the stress of the moment, just the mental clutter from a busy day, or that little voice in your head worrying about being judged. These barriers sabotage our message before it even leaves our mouths. They make us hesitate and we lose our conviction. So, how do we fight that static? Well, our journey starts from the inside. Pillar number 1 is all about mastering your internal mindset. So often, we speak from a place of what you could call mental clutter, right? Our thoughts are rushed, we're reacting emotionally, and honestly, we're just trying to be heard. The real goal is to shift to a mindset of clear thought, where you actually pause, you organize your ideas, and you speak with the intention of being understood. Big difference. And this isn't magic, it's a totally deliberate process. You just slow down, identify your single core idea, then back it up with one clear example or reason. It's that discipline that transforms those scattered thoughts into a sharp, purposeful message. Now, what's holding this entire mindset together is something called emotional intelligence. It's not just about managing your own internal state, but also about being able to read the room, to understand what the other person is feeling so your message can actually connect. See, these 5 components, they really work together as a system. Self-awareness is knowing what you're feeling. Self-regulation is controlling it. And empathy is understanding what they're feeling. Put them all together, and they allow you to stop reacting impulsively and start connecting on a real human level. Okay, so with a clear mindset as our foundation, we can now build pillar number 2, the architecture of the message itself. This is all about how you craft your words to be powerful and, just as important, memorable. Keep this number in your head. Just 3. Why? Because the rule of 3 is one of the most powerful, kind of secret tools in communication. For some reason, our brains are just wired to remember things in groups of 3. It feels complete, it feels satisfying. And beyond just the structure, the words themselves really matter. Research from Stanford actually shows that some words are just stickier than others. Concrete words that create a mental image, words that are charged with emotion, and yeah, even informal, conversational words can grab attention and just refuse to be forgotten. This statistic just reveals a fundamental truth about us. Our brains are wired for narrative. We love a good story. We're not wired for data dumps. A story connects in a way a sales pitch just can't. It is the original and still the most effective communication technology we've got. And the best part is, you don't have to be some great novelist to do this. A really simple story structure works every time. You start with a problem, you introduce your solution, and you end with the benefits. That simple framework can turn any dry message into a pretty memorable journey. Okay, so you've got the right mindset, you have a well-crafted message. Our final pillar is the method. This covers how you send your message out into the world, and just as importantly, how you receive one. So, Albert Mehrabian's groundbreaking research revealed something kind of startling. When we're communicating feelings and attitudes, the actual words we use only account for about 7% of the message's impact. The vast majority comes from our tone of voice and, get this, most of all, our body language. Now, a huge part of perfecting your delivery is actually about how you receive information, and there's a massive difference here. Hearing, that's just a passive physical process. Active listening, though, That's a skill. It's about being fully engaged to understand the intent behind the words. Becoming a better listener is really a practice. All of these techniques you see here share one main goal: to shift your focus from waiting for your turn to respond to truly listening to understand. When you can absorb what someone's saying and reflect it back to them, you're not just confirming info, you're showing them respect. So, how much does each of these pillars really matter? Let's ground this whole framework in some hard data for a second, just to see how these skills measurably create impact. One study found that technical speaking skills, clear grammar, being direct, the core of our message pillar, accounted for 45.1% of the measured difference between effective and ineffective communicators. That's a huge chunk. And then another study looked at the social side of things. It found that skills like emotional comprehension and problem solving, which is really the core of our mindset and method pillars, contributed another 23.3% to a person's communication success. I mean, the data makes it pretty undeniable, right? This isn't an either-or situation. The what, your message, and the how, your delivery, are both measurable, critical keys to success. One without the other is really only half the equation for making a real impact. So in the end, it all comes down to this one question. You have an important idea to share, but will anyone remember it? By mastering your mindset, crafting your message, and perfecting your method, you can make sure the answer to that question is a confident and resounding yes.